Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. In today's video, I'm going to be putting together and creating my Hedgehog a new food mix. So since I adopted my Hedgehog Ember about 6 months ago, she's only been eating a single kind of kibble. I have been feeding her the Inception cat chicken mix, and I've decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more interesting, and I wanted to combine multiple different kinds of kibble and dry food to create her a more interesting base mix. I do occasionally give Ember live bugs or dried bugs, stuff like that, but every day she gets about 1 tablespoon of her dry food, and I wanted to upgrade her dry food mix to be a little bit more interesting, different kinds of protein, different kinds of kibble, just a little bit more nutrient, diverse. And so I spent a lot of time on Reddit and on hedgehog care websites. The guinea pigs really want their veggies right now, so if you hear them screaming, that is why. But I spent a lot of time on different websites searching for some of the more popular cat foods and hedgehog foods that people give their hedgehog, and I also did research on the kind of like nutrient percentages you want. And so I collected about 4 different kinds of food that I'm going to mix together to create for Ember's food mix. And I'm gonna show you guys how I calculated what kinds of food I wanted and how much of those food I wanted to go in the mix. I created this entire Excel spreadsheet where I basically put in all of the information as far as like protein, fat, calcium phosphorus ratio, all of that, and did a lot of math in the Excel sheet to determine which foods I wanted and how much of which foods. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys that because it's kind of important to understand how I created the mix. I followed basically what I've seen a lot of rat owners do when they create their food mixes, and I did a similar thing to determine what kind of foods I wanted to order for Ember's mix. All right, so this is my Hedgehog food calculations spreadsheet. So up top here, this is where I have my goal amounts. So in my research, these were the percentages of protein, fat, fiber, and calcium phosphorus ratio that are recommended for hedgehogs. So for protein, you want 28 to 35%. For fat, you want 10 to 15. For fiber, 5 to 10. And the calcium to phosphorus ratio, I spelled that wrong, ratio, not ration. You want 2 to 1 or 1 to 1. So I was kind of aiming for somewhere in the middle, a little bit over 1 to 1, just to make sure she got enough calcium. But honestly, 2 to 1 was not very achievable just from a dry food standpoint. So I spent a lot of time going through and trying out different types of foods. In this section, I was doing research. I was deep in like the nutrient profiles and whatever, trying different foods. And these are the 4 that I ended up choosing. When I was looking at foods, I would put in the protein, fat, fiber, and calcium to phosphorus ratio that was on the brand's website. And I did that for all my foods. And then this is where I started doing some math. So this box right here totals up all of the weights in grams to get the total amount of grams that the food mix is going to be. And then the percent of mix, each of these is the weight in grams for that kind of food divided by the total weight in grams. And that gives us percentages. And then you can see here that they total up to 100%. Now to determine these total numbers down here, this is the total percentage of these nutrients for the entire food mix. So this way I can go in here and I can, like, let's say I want Open Farm to only be 60, then that's gonna change these percentages. So once I set these math equations up, I could go in here and mess around. Let's see, I want this to only be 200, and it would change these percentages. So I just went back and forth, changing all the weights in grams and doing it over and over and over until I got the percentages that I wanted. So this number here, I'll show you guys the formula if y'all use Excel, or if you want to do something similar for any of your pets' foods, if you're combining multiple foods, dogs, cats, rats, hedgehogs, whatever you're making a food mix for, this is how you can do it to make sure that at the end of the day, it's the right amounts of each kind of food to still be within the nutritional requirements of that animal. So protein, this is formula. So it is each kind of food, that protein percentage of the food times the percent of mix. So if 39.8% of the mix is 30% protein, then I multiply those together and then I add them to each other. So this one is 39% of the mix with 30% of the protein, and then I add that to the open farm, which is 17% of the mix times 33% protein, and it just goes all the way down, multiplying like that to get the total protein percentage of the whole mix. And it's the same thing for fat and fiber, calcium, phosphorus, all of it. And I will actually try and share this Google Excel sheet down in the description. I think there's a way where I can make it so y'all can at least view this Google spreadsheet, and then you can see these formulas and duplicate it for yourself or whatever if you want to create your own mix. But this is how I did it, and then I could just reference the total percentages down here and make sure that they are within my amounts. So protein's a good 30%, which is a little bit on the lower end, but it still fits really nice into this goal amount. Fat is on the lower end as well, which was really important for me because the vet said she was a little bit overweight, so I want to make sure that there's not too much fat in her food. As she gets older, you might want to do more. I might want to increase the fat percentages, but for now, just over the minimum is good. And then for fiber as well, it is just over the minimum. And then our calcium to phosphorus ratio is 1.1 to 0.9, which is a little bit on the lower end, but honestly, there wasn't a way for me to make it any higher given the foods that I chose. So yep, there you go. That is how I did all the math to create this food mix. And let's go ahead and get into actually creating it and putting it together. So I'm gonna go ahead and create the mix for you guys. I have this little container that I'm gonna be putting it in. I got this from my grocery store. I don't know, I just wanted an excuse to buy a new container. And also it's like UV light protective, so the food's gonna stay fresher for long. And it came with a tablespoon, little scoop, and it's airtight, everything. And it'll fit probably maybe like a month or to 2 months of food in here. She really doesn't eat a lot, so her food lasts a very long time. I'm really excited to introduce this new food to her. I'm gonna do it very slowly. So I'll be mixing in a bit of the food mix with her current plain Inception kibble, and eventually she'll be fully transitioned to the mix. So the first thing I'm gonna be doing in the mix is the Inception kibble that she is already used to. This is the chicken recipe. This is a cat food. This is what she's been eating for the past 6 months, and she really likes it. And I saw it recommended on like a bunch of pages for Hedgehog foods, and that's why I've been doing this one, but I wanted to mix stuff with it. So this food has 30% protein, 14% fat, and 7% fiber, and a calcium to phosphorus ratio of 1.1 to 9. So this, what she's been eating, actually fits the nutrient profile. I just wanted something a little bit more diverse, so I'm gonna be mixing it with the others. So let's do this one first. All right, so this is my scale. This is the Amazon Basics weight scale, and this does measure in grams. So we're gonna use this to pour the food in, and then we'll put it into her container. So I'm gonna tear this out so that we have a 0 gram displaying right here. I don't know if y'all are able to see it from the angle, but I'll tell you how many grams and everything that I'm adding in. So I have written down that the Inception chicken is 225 grams. This is 225 grams. I am planning to freeze the rest of the kibble. Obviously, there is a lot left in these bags because they're made for cats, and even though I bought the smallest size bag, it's still a lot more than she would ever eat within a timely manner. So I think I'm gonna freeze it to sort of preserve any leftovers. That way, whenever she goes through this mix, I'll just recreate it with my leftovers. It feels like a waste. My other option is to maybe donate the leftover food to a rescue or a cat rescue or something like that. If they take open bags, I'm not entirely sure, but it just feels like a waste to leave it out. So I'm gonna try and freeze the leftovers. So this is 225 grams of the Inception chicken. All right, there we go. And the next food that I'm gonna be adding is the Hedgehog Precision Standard Formula. So this is actually a Hedgehog curated food, unlike the other foods, which are more like cat foods. This is made specifically for hedgehogs. And I got this one because it contains black soldier fly larvae, so there is actually some insect-based protein in this food. It also has chicken meal, brown rice, a bunch of other stuff in here. And you can see the little pieces are super, super small, so it'll be really easy for her to eat this one. I normally soak her food mix with water before I give it to her. That way, especially for the larger cat food pieces, they're not too big for her to bite and chew, and it's been softened with the water. And this has a protein of 28%, fat of 8%, fiber of 5%, and the calcium to phosphorus ratio is 0.8 to 0.7. So we're gonna go ahead and add some of this to the mix. Let's see, 225 grams of this as well. So these two are the main two components of the mix. I'm not sure how much is in this bag. I feel like it's maybe gonna be like half the bag, especially because the kibble pieces are so small. Let's see. Hopefully this is all gonna fit in here. I tried to reduce my calculations so it would. Let's see here. Oh, it's a little bit high. It's at 227. I'm gonna be picky and I'm gonna make it exactly 225. Okay. They're so cute. The little itty bitty pieces of kibble, like they're so small, guys. It's so cute. Like compared to the Inception and then the little tiny itty bitty pieces. It's so cute. Let's pour this in. Give that a little shake. This is what it looks like so far. Mostly the tiny kibble, just because obviously with weight, there was gonna be a lot more. And it's not as mixed down at the bottom, but this is what we have so far. And then the next food, took me forever to figure out the other kind of cat kibble I wanted to mix in. And this is actually the kibble brand that I feed my dog. So this is Open Farm. My dog eats the turkey and ancient grains mix, but I wanted to look at their other food options and see if there was something that I liked to feed Ember. So I haven't fed their Good Bowl stuff before. This is what I chose for her, just based off the nutrient profile and ratios. This was the food that was the closest to what she needs. So this is harvest chicken and brown rice. When I was doing my research, it was really difficult to figure out if you want to do grain-free foods or foods that contain grains. And in the end, I decided to go with foods that contain grains. Some people will mix grain-free and grain foods together for their hedgehog, but when I was looking at all of the grain-free foods, the issue I found was that the protein level was really, really high. So because there's not as many grains in the food, the protein level is like what's in the majority of the food, and it's a lot higher than the range that you want for hedgehogs. And also a lot of the grain-free foods included a lot more kinds of vegetables and fruits, like tomatoes, pumpkins, like berries, stuff like that. And from my research, while it's very common for people to feed their hedgehogs fruits and vegetables, they don't really have the ability to process those kinds of foods. So I didn't want any type of kibble that contained a high amount of pumpkin or tomato or fruits and veggies. And the grain-free kibbles, just because there's no grains, they're gonna contain higher amounts of fruits and vegetables. So I went with grain food, and it has a protein of 32%, fat of 12%, and fiber of 3%. So this has a lot lower fiber than she needs. So by mixing this with the other foods, I create a balanced mix at the end. Calcium phosphorus, it is 1.79 to 1.43. I don't know how that like simplifies out, but that's what it is for this one. So let's add this into her mix. Now it's time for the Open Farm. Let's see, I got 100 grams of the Open Farm. Okay, so this one's like a nice flat round piece, and having the different shapes of kibble is also more enriching for them because they're not just eating the same shape, size, texture of kibble every day. So different sizes can make it more appealing. So let's do 100 grams of this. That is 100 grams of the Open Farm. There is so much left. I was trying to find dog foods that would be the right nutrient profile so that I could feed the leftovers to my dog, but the dog foods were not the right nutrients. They usually weren't, I think they weren't high enough in protein and stuff. So I had to get cat food, and I'm like, I wish I could feed dog food so that it would work to feed to my dog, but it did not, so. Add this. Oh yeah, this is gonna fit. Oh, there it is. It looks so pretty, all the different sizes. I know it's weird to say that because it's literally like kibble, but it looks nice. And then it's like a little extra treat. I wanted to add in something unique to the mix that wasn't a kibble. So I picked up these freeze-dried duck liver, and she has had these before. My dog has had these before. She really likes them. I don't give them that often, but I wanted to calculate how much of this I could mix into her existing food mix, just to make it a little bit more exciting and add a different protein. Like you saw, both of my cat kibbles are chicken-based, and then there's also chicken in the Hedgehog Precision, as well as some insects. So I wanted to add in a different type of protein, and I went with duck. I tend to avoid stuff like tuna, salmon, or fish products. I did read that that can make their poop smell really bad. So I avoid stuff where the first protein is a type of fish or anything like that. But I wanted to add in duck, and like I said, she's had these before, so she's used to them and she hasn't had any issues on them. And these ones, obviously, these are gonna have a lot of protein because they're just freeze-dried. So the protein in this is 55%, fat is 21%, and fiber is 3%. So both the protein and fat are really high, and the fiber is too low, which is why this would not be suitable for like her only thing to eat. And so this will only be mixing in about, I think, 15 grams of this into her mix. So not a lot at all, just a little something to spice it up. So this is the final thing. Let's go ahead and add it in. Last up is the duck liver. I think it's actually quite literally only 15 grams of this. So this I can feed the leftovers to my dog. It says cat treats, but the only ingredient in this is duck liver. So I probably will feed the leftovers to my dog as a topper with her meals, and then just buy a new one when I need it. It's literally still at 0 grams, guys. Is it because it's just freeze-dried, like it's just like air? Okay. All of this is only 6 grams, so clearly I underestimated it. It's gonna take almost the whole bag, okay. Okay, that's 15 grams. That's a lot more than I thought. It's like half the bag. Maybe the full bag was 30 grams, does it say? Okay, the full bag is about 25 grams. Yeah, I used a little over half the bag, so that actually makes sense. Got 15 grams. Last thing in there, and then mix it all up. Okay, I think that's pretty decently mixed. It smells so gross to me. I think it's the duck smell maybe, I don't know. But this is what we have. This is my new food mix for Ember. So I'll be slowly transitioning her onto this over the next, probably the next week or so. It shouldn't take too long because she's already familiar with the freeze-dried duck and the Inception. It's only the other 2 foods that are new, and they have similar ingredients, honestly, to the other ones. So this is her new food mix. I'll be curious to see how long it takes her to get through this container. And then, like I said earlier, I'm probably gonna freeze most of the leftover foods, especially the Inception and the Open Farm. I'll have to see if this recommends it to be frozen, and I'll feed the rest of the duck to my dog. But yes, I have finished her food mix, and I do want to say before I end this video, this is by no means like a guide on what to feed your hedgehog. This was very much a learning experience for me, researching and trying to come up with a mix, and every hedgehog is going to respond to different kinds of food differently. So don't just follow this guide blindly as for what you should feed your hedgehog. However, I have heard that the Hedgehog Precision is very good. It's just best if you mix this with other kinds of food for a better nutrient profile. So I will link them and all the other foods down below if you're interested in checking them out for your animals. But please do your own research before creating your mix, and don't just follow mine as a guide. This is my first time doing this, so I am learning along with all of you all. It was really fun. I've always liked when people make like rat mixes, like rat food mixes. It's always been so interesting to me. It seems so fun to kind of formulate it. And I actually had kind of a fun time in my Excel spreadsheet trying to make this mix work. I don't know if I'm just a fan of Excel or what, but I actually kind of enjoyed the process and doing that. So yes, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye-bye.